Alhamdulillah, Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Nahmaduhu wa nusalli ala Rasulihil Kareem. Amma ba'd. Fa'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajeem. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. قال الله تعالى في كتابه المجيد بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم فاعلم أنه لا إله إلا الله. وقال الله تعالى في مقام آخر اقرأ باسم ربك الذي خلق خلق الإنسان من علق اقرأ وربك الأكرم الذي علم بالقلم. وقال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم طلب العلم فريضة على كل مسلم أو كما قال عليه الصلاة والسلام صدق الله العظيم. My dear respected brothers, alhamdulillah, it's with the great blessing of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that we are all gathered here on the day of Jum'ah in the masjid, remembering Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is a great blessing of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that we have to remember amongst the many ni'mas that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us. This day of Jum'ah is a day of remembering Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. All of us come together collectively for no other purpose other than the dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We come here to remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And likewise, every amal that we do in this world, the life that we spend in this world, the way that we carry ourselves in this world has to be carried in the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We have to carry ourselves in such a way where our action and our being, the way that we are, embodies what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent His Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam with into this world. So I recited فَاعْلَمْ أَنَّهُ لَا إِلَهَ إِلَّا اللَّهِ. So in order for us to do this, for us to accomplish this embodiment of Rabbaniyah, this godly, divine presence, for a person to accomplish that, he has to understand who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is. He has to learn about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's not something that it is inherent the moment we are born. We know who Allah is 100%. And we know how to worship Him 100%. It doesn't work like that. When we are born into this world and we grow up in this world, we are educated, right? We are educated about what 2 plus 2 is. We are educated about what the word photosynthesis means. We are educated about who won the Civil War. But seldom is a person educated on who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is. Very seldom. Right? So one of the impetus that is given for education in Islam, one of the impetus that is given to pursue education amongst the Muslim Ummah is the ayat and the well-known surah we all know, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, Iqra. Right? We stop at Iqra. But if we continue with the ayah, what is the rest of the ayah? Bismi Rabbikal Ladhi Khalaq. So we like to say read. So everyone go read cell and molecular biology. Everyone go read electrical engineering. Everyone go read thermodynamics and statics or computer science or whatever it is. But everyone go read something, right? But the whole crux and the essence of the education is lost in this milieu of exams, in this milieu of standards, right? It's lost. What was the whole point of the education? Bismi rabbika alladhi khalaq. Khalaqa al-insana min alaq. Unfortunately, because we have left the ruhani portion of this education, the portion of education which was supposed to bring insan closer to their creator, which was supposed to help insan see the connection between makhluq and khaliq, that connection has been lost. Now the same person who will study immunology, I'm just giving that example because I used to work in immunology a lot. So a person who studies the immune system, he'll look at the immune system and all the T cells, the B cells, all the little proteins, MHCs that go around here and there, and antibodies, and they'll see that, oh, this is how the human body is protected. There's no concept of shifa, na'iyadu billah. Where is Allah in this? This is the mindset that occurs because a person reads without Bismi Rabbika alladhi khalaq. The goal of recognizing Allah is not there. That goal of recognizing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala must be there. The same person going through the education system that we are currently seeing and the education that we give our children, another individual going through that same system could see, by the grace of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, by the infinite mercy, it is an infinite mercy that any one of us is even sitting here in Jum'ah. But it is by the grace of Allah that a person going through that same education reads about immunology and says, this is how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is protecting us. Just like a little tidbit on immunology, if anybody reads it, you have so many lines of defenses. The skin is the first, then you have the blood itself. Nobody thinks that the blood can fight. Everyone thinks it's just like sort of water and whatever gets in there is in there. The blood itself has a complement system that destroys bacteria based on, polysaccharide chains and all that good stuff. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created incredible creations to protect this delicate makhluk called insan. And if any one of these things are awry, right, a person can become immunocompromised. You can contract diseases like ABCs, right? But the point is that to see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in that education. When we carry ourselves in our lives, what is the purpose? The purpose is to recognize Allah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وما خلقت الجن والإنس إلا ليعبدون. Right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not create insan and jinn for any other purpose. He didn't create us for us to create huge buildings and skyscrapers. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala didn't create us for the purpose of even how noble it is, but He didn't create us for the sole purpose of, for example, healthcare, of providing healthcare. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala didn't create us for the sole purpose of athletics, of being healthy. Allah's main purpose, sole purpose in our creation, لِيَعْبُدُونَ, it's like لِيَعْبُدُونِي, right? For my worship, the worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Many people have heard this ayah over and over and over, right? So the explanation that is also given with it is that the ibadat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the obedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, can also be summarized as the ma'arifah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, meaning liya'rifun. Right? So that this insan can recognize who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is. Simple example, anybody over here who has an employer understands, or a supervisor understands that if he doesn't do his job at work, that supervisor, that manager, or that employer has every ability to cut his pay or to just let him off. Right? He recognizes the status of the supervisor, whether it's by his name badge or because his superiors have all confirmed it, or the people around him say, okay, this is the supervisor. But he recognizes the status of the supervisor, and he knows his power. Right? Maybe he's seen the supervisor fire somebody else. Or maybe he's seen the supervisor be strict with his fellow workers. Right? So he recognizes that supervisor is my supervisor, and I can't disobey him. I can't do anything outside my job. I can't be twiddling my thumbs, for 4 hours a day or just on Facebook, and then 20% of the time I'm actually doing work. I can't do that, right? Because the supervisor is watching me. And if I don't do what the supervisor says, then he'll fire me, or he'll dock my pay, right? Or he'll give me a hard time. In the same way, the example of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is beyond anything else, of course. So we need to recognize Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If a person throughout his life, and a person is always learning throughout his life, we should never assume that because my black beard turned white, my learning is done. No. Learning is throughout the entire life. A person following his deen is throughout his entire life. Learning who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is a life journey. Right? Till the day we die, until we meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we're still learning about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? So I lost my train of thought. So, a person needs to make an effort to learn who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is so that he can do the ibadat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If he doesn't recognize who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is, through this dunya is the only chance we get. This dunya is the only chance we get. Right? Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said in hadith more or less, Al-Kayyis man dana nafsahu wa amila lima ba'da al-maut. Right? The person who is wise, al-Kays, right? The Kays person, the wise person, or the shrewd person, who knows what he's doing, right? And who's proactive, he will take check on himself. He'll monitor himself in this world. Am I doing what I'm supposed to be doing? What Allah sent me here for? وَعَمِلَ لِمَا بَعْدَ الْمَوْتِ. And am I doing what needs to be done for my akhirat? Right? So if this entire life we're learning, but I don't learn in the context of Allah and Rasul, or I don't learn to tie it in with Allah and Rasul, what am I doing? I have not learned who Allah is. Right? So especially for all the kids over here who are in schools, and the adults as well, there's many things we can learn in the business place as well, right? About the greatness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The greatness of Allah is everywhere. The carpet that we are sitting, you could give a bayan on the carpet. The colors that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us the ability to see. Imagine if Allah didn't give us the ability to see color. Carpet business, like every designer business would be out of business. No concept of matching colors, complementary colors, nothing. No emphasis on design. So this is a blessing of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He is giving us the ability to see something beautiful and to make something beautiful. This is a blessing of Allah. So picking out things to see the beauty of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is what we need to be doing throughout our life. To develop that ma'rifah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. To recognize Allah, you have to look for Allah. To recognize Allah, you have to look for Allah. For our children to recognize Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we have to show them Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? So our kids, they go to school. They learn XYZ thing. They learn history class. You can show the qudrat of Allah through history class as well. Look at Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving history lessons all over the place. Look at what I have done with Ad. Look at what I have done with Thamud. Look at what I did with the qawm of Nuh alayhi salam. Look what I did with the qawm of Lut alayhi salam. Look at how these nations rise and they fall. What was the reason for their rise and their fall? Look at what happened to the Muslim Ummah. How did the Muslim Ummah rise? When we learn history, learn in the context of Allah and Rasul, how did Allah bring these people to such height? What ni'mas did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give these people? When you're taking the same lesson, but you're twisting it in such a way that a person learns who Allah and Rasul is. So when a person learns who Allah and Rasul is, when he learns to love Allah and His Rasul, to recognize Him, and to have awe for Allah and His Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, then his ibadat, the ita'at of Allah, the obedience to Allah and His Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam just follows up, just rushes down after. Right? It's like eating food, you automatically swallow it. Same thing. Right? When a person recognizes who Allah, this is my Allah, the one who's like I'm dangling by a thread. So many ways Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if He changes one gene, a person, in order to get sickle cell anemia, there is a certain gene. Just one letter. There's 9 billion units in a human DNA. If even one is mistaken in the right place, that person can go from a person with normal blood cells, that looks like a circle, into someone who has sickle cell anemia. Right? 1 unit out of 9 billion. And this replication happens on a daily basis. Since the day we were born, you're born with one set of DNA, right? And after some time, it splits into 2 sets of DNA. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala recreates your entire DNA to perfect accuracy. Perfect accuracy. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if He changed any one thing, this person would be destroyed. This person could have mental disabilities. This person could come out with physiological incapabilities. Congenital issues. All sorts of things can happen. Right? So when we see that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has this much control over me, Allah has this much control over me, And I'm still, He gives me, He's still, in spite of me not having done anything for Allah. I've never done anything for Allah. You can't feed Allah, can't give Him anything to drink, can't loan money, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one who's creating everything and providing for us. Right? So, in that position, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is still keeping us in perfect health. This is something to, think about. This is something to ponder about. أَفَلَا يَتَدَبَّرُونَ الْقُرْآنِ. Do we not think about Qur'an? Look back and look at what we read in Qur'an and just think about it. Think about the greatness of Allah. Think about the ni'mahs that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us. So how can I not worship Allah or obey Allah? Find out what can I do to please this Allah who created me? Where can I find this Allah? How can I reach this Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, azza wa jal? When a person starts to think about Allah like this, he learns to love Allah. And he'll do anything to obey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? When a person reaches the ma'rifah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then they will be able to do the ibadat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When a person is educated to recognize Allah, then he will obey Allah. The disobedience of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is what is bringing the issues that I am having today. The issues within my home is coming from the disobedience of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because a person doesn't, simple example, a person doesn't pray his salat at home. It's because he hasn't recognized Allah. He doesn't recognize that Allah is the one who is feeding him. That plate of food that comes in front of him, right? That's from the ni'mah of Allah. That mother who is cooking my food, her heart is only beating because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has not taken away Amr yet. If Allah's Amr descends and Malak al-Maut is commanded to come on my mother, what am I going to do? Then I'll remember the ni'mat of Allah. Maybe, if Allah gives me that rahmat. We have to recognize the ni'mat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for that ibadat, right? So when people do the ibadat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they follow Allah. Ibadat doesn't necessarily mean that you pray a lot of salat. You pray, 500 nawafil a day, or you do 1,000 tasbihat every single day. This isn't necessarily the definition of ibadah. Ibadah is the obedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala whenever and whatever His command is at any given point in time in my life. Whatever Allah wants, that is what is right, and that is what needs to be done. Right? Simple example about ita'at to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions this story of Musa alayhi salam. وإذ قال موسى لقومه إن الله يأمركم أن تذبحوا بقرة قالوا وتتخذنا هزوا قال أعوذ بالله أن أكون من الجاهلين. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is recounting the story of Musa alayhi salam when there was a murder committed amongst the Bani Israel, and they wanted to know who is the qatil, who is the murderer. Right? So, and there's a whole bunch of fitna coming up in between the tribes because people accusations flying here and there. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sends down an order, and the order has nothing to do with law, with the legal system, with forensics. It has nothing to do. No cotton swabs, no go to the site of the crime, nothing. What did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say? أَن تَذْبَحُوا بَقَرَةً. Go slaughter a cow. Has nothing to do with the subject. But it was the order of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? It was the order of Allah. And after, many of us know the story, after all the chain of events that occurred, had they just done this in the beginning, all they had to do was take the meat of the slaughtered animal and then strike it on the maqtul, the one who was killed, and then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed to them the identity of the killer. But the point is that no matter what the order of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is, because if a person recognizes Allah, Allah knows everything. Allah knows what dots are connected because He's the one connecting the dots. We don't know how the world works. We're still studying. A good scientist always will tell you, I don't know. Right? Because we don't know how the world works. Majority of this world is, I don't know. Right? Because Allah knows everything. To recognize Allah, we recognize Allah that He is the one that is controlling everything. And that His obedience, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows 50,000 years before creation, He already wrote everything. What's going to happen? He already knows what's going to happen. So He laid out the rules saying, okay, if you just follow this algorithm, you follow these rules, the ahkam of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you'll be good. Right? So it's a matter of building iman and yaqeen Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? And that iman and yaqeen needs to happen during when we educate ourselves and when we educate our children. So number one thing that needs to happen among the ummah today is that the way that we educate our children must change. It must come onto recognition of Allah and Rasul. It has to come on the recognition of Allah and Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam. When a child comes home from school, how much does a parent engage with the child? In fact, just a very simple question, right? You just think to yourself, how many families here, or how many individuals here mention the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala 5 times a day in a conversation at home outside of salah? We say Allahu Akbar, right? More than 5 times a day, so that doesn't count. Okay? But just think, how many times do I even mention the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala at home? Right? Have a conversation with children about who their Allah is. Simple things, like you put a plate of food down for your child, and you ask them, who is giving you this food? And they'll say, Mama. You say, no, it is Allah. Allah is giving you the food. Very simple. Connect the dots from beforehand. So they learn that even though, yes, Mama is putting that food in front of me, but what's happening, the whole chain of events, the reason my mother is still in the capacity to provide me food. This is from the qudrat of Allah. That thinking develops from the beginning. That love for Allah develops from the beginning. So that conversation needs to be happening between the parent and the child. And adults amongst each other, when we talk about Allah, when we learn to redirect conversations to Allah, we learn to love Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. So I pray, inshallah, make dua that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us the true ma'arifah of Him and His qudrat in this world before taking our lives. Inshallah. قال الله تعالى في كتابه المجيد على أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم يا أيها الذين آمنوا لا تتبعوا خطوات الشيطان يا أيها الذين آمنوا لا تتبعوا خطوات الشيطان إنه لكم عدو مبين أستغفر الله ولكم ولسائر المسلمين فاستغفروه إنه هو الغفور الرحيم سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسوله الأمين. أما بعد فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان قال الله تعالى في كتابه المجيد بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد بعدد من صلى وصام اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد بعدد من قعد وقام اللهم صل على جميع الأنبياء والمرسلين وعلى سائر الصحابة والتابعين اللهم اغفر للمؤمنين والمؤمنات الأحياء منهم والأموات اللهم نور قلوبنا بنور الإيمان اللهم أرنا الحق حقا وارزقنا اتباعه وأرنا الباطل باطلا وارزقنا اجتنابه اللهم ثبتنا على الإسلام يا مقلب القلوب ثبت قلوبنا على دينك يا مصرف القلوب صرف قلوبنا على طاعتك اللهم إني أعوذ بك من الهم والحزن وأعوذ بك من العجز والكسل وأعوذ بك من الجبن والبخل وأعوذ بك من غلبة الدين قهر الرجال اللهم اكفني بحلالك عن حرامك وأغنني بفضلك عمن سواك يا عباد الله رحمكم الله إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون اذكروا الله يذكركم ودعوه يستجب لكم ولذكر الله تعالى أكبر وأقيم الصلاة.
الله أكبر الله